especially connecting it to the local traditions where normally there's the fiaccolata, you know, the candle procession that moves through the village on the 24th December, and they go up to this big falò, big bonfire, and so there's already this tradition around this village connected to light. So we're, you know, it's you know, via the title and via the significance of the work, connected to the local traditions here. So I just wanted to share that part with you before it gets too dark. I'm going to step into the hallway for a second. I might lose you. And if I do, just wait a few seconds and I'll come back into the room with a better.
I'll try not to have any abandonment issues. Sorry, I'm late. I realized I hadn't put out the trash cans last night, and this morning is trash pickup, so I had to run them out there.
And I miss you so much.
Coffee.
Gorgeous. She's showing you because we're afraid we're gonna lose.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful place.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm not there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So now I'll turn it over to Shane if he wants to talk about his work. Also, Shane, if you want to direct me to a certain piece, I'll move to that piece.
Okay.
And then also, may I just say one other word? You know, Mikelle and I went through this practice, this whole thing, and the other room we lose reception. So when we get down to that, point of the exhibition, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to my iPhoto and I'll share images of the space so we can look at those.
You're pretty snazzy there. Well, I'll start off by saying thank you. And thank you, Victoria. When the idea was proposed to me, because I saw Victoria was posting images on Instagram when she was there, and I thought, wow, that's such a beautiful place. Then she came back to LA and said, you need to come. And I said, yes, that would be wonderful. And Victoria's always trying to figure out a way to get me out of LA. That's one of her main goals, get me out of Los Angeles. So then she started showing me photographs, and we began talking about the idea of doing an exhibition there. And just for practical reasons, it seemed like the easiest way to do it would be with works on paper. I had done some paintings as well, but it with the COVID thing proved to be next to impossible to get them shipped now and get them through customs. So we skipped that one and just went for the paper pieces. But one thing I kept looking at was the architecture and the colors. And I wanted to make work that was in having a dialogue with the space. And the idea of the path of light, because my work is so much about light, that seemed to be a perfect fit for me.
Yeah.
And I was envisioning two things. One is like on the numbered pieces, people refer to them as flowers. I don't see them as flowers because I'm making a repetitive mark over and over and over again. And it just happens to sort of begin to look like flowers or petals or leaves. Originally, when I started these, I saw them as leaves, but not as actual leaves, but as an idea of a leaf. And so these again were that, but by putting in colors, suddenly they become more like flowers. And of course, the numbers reference the number of days that have transpired since the beginning of the Gregorian calendar to the day I finished them. Because we always think about time in terms of years, but I began thinking about it more in terms of days, and to get a different perspective on my life, basically. And so each day is about the path of light as it goes from night to day to day to night. So that all seemed to make a lot of sense to me for the idea of what we are after here. And then another thing I was thinking about was like in the room with the ceiling, I was thinking about, well, what if that is almost the light source or the point of information that's informing these pieces? Then like there, and then so it's as if they're being illuminated, the drawings are being illuminated from the ceiling. Again, talking about the path of light. And right here, in that piece right there, with the pink and the yellow, I wanted to play around with those color combinations and actually make work that appeared as if it was being manifested from the environment. I don't think I can think of anything more clever to say than that.
Well,
May I ask
Shane, I
something?
wanted to,
Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Excuse me, Mikelle, can you tell me the datation of the paintings on the ceilings? What is the dates of the paintings in the house?
Fresco.
Do you
Well,
have
the
information
building,
about it?
the building, no, I mean, nobody, I haven't found anyone that knows specifically who painted what when. The building is from the late 17, I mean, Settecento, fine Settecento. So we found papers talking about the French Revolution. And so I think some of these frescoes are slightly newer than other ones. So, but I don't know if they're probably not original to Settecento. Some of them are probably, yes, like these, I don't know if you can, these
Oh, yeah.
are probably original to the building. And they're starting to like fade and lose some of their quality.
I was figuring out, because it is important also for Shane and for the paintings. I was just thinking and figuring out what kind of period of Italian painting is related to, and what is the region, because I know perfectly well the region where the house is located, and at that time maybe the region was influenced by French. Because it was the part of Savoy, and Savoy at that time belonged to French area, maybe. So, but at the same time, paintings are also the north area of Italy. The paintings and the colors are also related to the Venetian colors of paintings, and it is very important because you have we have the colors which are the pink, yellow, and blue, light blue nuances that can be related. Obviously, I am looking at them through a small video like this, so I cannot be sure, but there could be a connection between the French painting of 1700s and the Venetian paintings of that period. So the kind of pinks and light blue are very specific of the period. And I think that your paintings could be very well matching these colors of these frescoes. Sorry for the introduction, but I wanted to
No, it's fantastic.
the
No, there's
location.
definitely, you know, when you walk through the space, you know, the connection between the feeling of the work and the environment, you know, it's very strong. So you definitely feel a connection, like just looking in the screen here and like seeing these reds and yellows pick up in Shane's paintings. You know, elements of the ceiling. No, it's very clear.
There are a lot of elements of
there's
Venetian
one thing.
painting. of that period.
Well, maybe
In
in the
colors.
future, Cynthia, maybe you can help me research something. I don't know. So far, I haven't found anybody that knows specifically about this ceiling. Yeah, there's lots of conjecture, but yeah, that's fantastic.
Well, it's really beautiful,
Yeah.
and Victoria and I
Yeah.
spent a few hours
This is
poring over
wonderful.
the images, and Victoria made a couple of booklets for me to keep referencing, and I kept looking at them for quite a few months until I was ready to start creating, and then they happened fairly quickly. But it was the organic shapes, those sort of calligraphic movements in the ceiling, obviously ties into my sensibility. And they're very Baroque and dramatic. And I wanted to get a sense of that in my pieces as much as I could.
Absolutely. I'm going to try to walk down to the room downstairs, and we'll see if you lose me or not. And if you do, I'll come back up to this room in a few seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Cynthia, I know that Shane looked at the floor, not just the ceiling, but all of the elements to try and incorporate. And Mikelle gave us like a blueprint of the whole buildings. 'Cause
Floor
it's
plan,
kind of
yeah.
like it's like a big horseshoe shape. This is only one of, it's like a horseshoe shape. All the buildings are attached into around, and so this is only just one part, and it's all very interesting. And there's a lot of wells, natural water fountains,
Yeah.
and wells on the property. Like if Shane was there and he had to go,
Hi.
hi,
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, Victoria.
hi, so great to see you.
Great
Good to see you.
Aw.
Are you guys in
Oh,
Naples?
The
Yeah.
Keep track.
Oh, great. Here we are downstairs.
You
work.
are.
Oh, right. Yes, that room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Excellent.
Yes, I can see the ceiling, and it's typical of 1800
Mm.
paintings. I don't know if you remember, Shane, the frescoes of Villa di Donato upstairs,
Yes.
the big room.
Yes.
They are quite similar in a certain way because of the kind of paintings and drawings and floral flowers and how can we call it in Italian? We call it oh my God, I forgot the name. Sorry, I forgot the name of that paint. The kind of paintings that are on the ceilings. They
like
are
frescoes?
absolutely
A fresco?
not fresco. No, the drawings. The single. Oh my God.
Etching? No.
No, they are not etching. No. The anyway, they are were introduced in 1500, and then they came out again in the 1700. That's why they repeated the same models of flowers and frescoes. So
Yeah.
they are very, very interesting. This
Isn't that
is
where we had
upstairs
dinner that
again?
night? The night of the opening, a big dinner?
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember.
yeah, yes.
So can I talk or am I in delay?
Go ahead. You're
Okay.
good.
Okay. So as you know, the local city administration, I guess, they sponsored that 4-minute film that they made on you here.
Mhm.
But on Friday, I'm re-meeting the video artists, and I wanted to make a shorter version and make it so that you didn't have to know Italian to watch it. And, you know, the dialogue that you were just saying, like, right when you said, I can't think of anything more intelligent to say than that, like leading up to that, I think it'd be really great if we could use that overlay voice on the short video. So if the recording quality is good enough from this, or if you have a way to like repeat that on a MP3 or a phone.
Yeah, I've got a whole
recording.
recording audio setup here.
Yeah, that'd be great if you just did. It's gonna be really short, so
Okay.
you know, even if it were like 30, you know, a minute, it's 30 seconds, you know, 60 seconds, something
Okay.
like that.
What I'll do is
That'd be
I'll
great.
write something out. And when do you need it by?
I'm gonna meet him on the 1st, my morning of the 1st.
Okay.
So I guess that would be, yeah, I guess that would probably be your evening tomorrow evening if you
Okay.
have a chance.
I'll see if I can get
Okay,
it.
great.
tonight.
Okay, great.
Should I go through the images still, or?
Yeah.
Okay, let me share the screen.
Anybody have questions?
Yeah.
Oh, I have some questions, but
Bye, Cynthia. Bye.
I have some questions just for Shane, because I know the production of Shane and paintings of Shane. So I want to ask you if you have produced these body of works expressly for these rooms inside the villa, or is a sort of production that you are facing for the first time, or maybe for the first time in your life? And then answer first to this question, and then I can go on with the second question.
Okay. So the
Because I
numbers,
know your production very well, your works very well. So they are a little bit different from your usual
right.
audio.
There's
Okay.
there's a series that I did back in 1989 or 1990. After I returned from a peace walk in the Soviet Union, and I was in the Soviet Union for a month, and I witnessed the ending of the Soviet Union and the collapse of the whole thing. And I was thankful to get out of there in one piece. And so that's what initially got me thinking differently about time, because the difference of 3 days would have meant that I would have been stuck there and probably not able to get out.
Whoops.
And so when I got back to the United States, I was really thinking very much about each day of my trip over there and the people that I met. And so that's what got me really thinking about the concept of how many days have we been on this planet, or, you know, up until that moment, as we tend to count time. So I did a series of, there were black and white charcoal drawings of leaves. And again, they weren't necessarily about a representation of a leaf. They were about an idea of a leaf, or how we, in our minds, how we sort of compress our memories to formulate an image. And I did a series of these, I don't know, maybe for about a year, and then I stopped. And then I think it was last year or 2 years ago, Victoria and I were talking about different bodies of work of mine, and that series came up and we were writing about it. And so I looked at the drawings again, and I thought, oh, there's something here. I'd forgotten about them. I should reinvestigate. So I did another series, I think it was a year and a half ago, Victoria, of pastel drawings. And this time I used color. But again, the leaves were quite small. And then when this opportunity came up, I had a different idea again, because I was being influenced by the architecture, by the colors of the space. And I wanted to incorporate and have a conversation. So I was using one of my old ideas and bringing it forward to this. Basic.
Shane, sorry, just one more question.
Okay.
The link and the connection between the leaves, if we can call them leaves, and the concept of time
Yeah.
is just because it is an amount of leaves, and so is time passing through, and is the amount of leaves which represents the amount of time that we have, we live in our lives,
Mhm.
or is just because the flower is ephemeral, because after a short time obviously it represents also our life, because there is a starting point, a birth, a life, and a death.
Right.
And so is also in a flower, it is compressed in a shorter time than our lives.
Yes,
So
correct.
why what is the core of the connection between the leaves, the flowers, and the time in your mind? And
It's
in
the
the
cycle of nature, like what you're talking about. And, I've been spending a lot of time on my ranch here, and I planted 100 different assorted fruit trees. And over the course of the summer, I had so much fruit. It was unbelievable. And then I planted a garden, and I had fresh tomatoes every day, fresh basil, cucumbers, carrots. So I was in the midst of this beautiful cycle of nature where it's being really productive. Right now, the leaves have all fallen off the fruit trees. The vegetable garden has died off. And so it's in a dormant period. But in April, it'll all come roaring back again. So that, combined with the reality that last March, my father passed away. And again, I'm thinking about the passing of time, of the passing of our lives, what matters to us, the fragility of life, how when we're younger, it seems like we have forever. And then as we get older, we realize we don't. And then losing a parent, you realize what your mortality is. Like, this will also happen to me. And I think this is my way of sort of confronting it, my own mortality, and trying to understand it in a way that makes sense to me. That, these become documents of a moment in time, each of these pieces.
The numbers that you put below, they are connected to the numbers of days you
Yes.
told before, the Gregorian calendar.
Yes. So right now we're about ready to enter, in the Gregorian calendar, we're about ready to enter the year 2021. So if you, on January 1st, if you take 2021 times, multiply that by 365, and that gives you a number. And then you take 365 and divide that by 4, and that gives you the number of leap years, because every 4 years we have one extra day. So then you figure out how many extra days you have because of the leap year. Then I add that to the original number, and that's how I come up with the 737,762. That's how many days have transpired since day one of our current calendar.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are the still points.
Yes, the still points. Yes. And these, they started off as these drawings, these ink drawings, back in 2009. And then I did some more, which is right there in the back wall. That's an early one from 2009. And I was, with the still points, I was really thinking about the T.S. Eliot poem at the still where that phrase, at the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither coming nor going, that's where the dance lies. And in 2009, how this all came about, I was actually sitting in a meeting of the downtown city council, because I was a neighborhood council member. I've been elected. And so we were listening to somebody stating why they wanted a liquor license for their restaurant in downtown LA. And so the public was there. Some people were for it, some people were against it, and they were both arguing their points. And then we were to vote on it to decide whether or not we would give them a liquor license. And so I'm sitting there listening to these arguments back and forth. And I thought, this is kind of crazy that I'm sitting here in the midst of this. This is not who I am. Really, I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I got elected to the seat. Somebody put my name on a ballot without even asking me, and I got elected. So there I was. And I started doodling just on my page without thinking. I was just doodling. And I had been reading the T.S. Eliot poem just, I think maybe a day or two before. And I looked down and I saw this doodle and I thought, oh, that's the still point. There it is. So that's what made me think I need to explore this idea. And I started first on paper just to see if it would work. And then that graduated to some canvases, and then I had an exhibition with them at Leslie Sachs Gallery, I think in 2010. And that's when I first met you. You and Renata were there at the show. So
Well, no, was not, maybe it was not in 2010, maybe later, but
maybe 2011.
2011 or something. Yes, I remember perfectly well the evening. Yeah.
Yes, and so these right here, these are the latest ones that I did, and they're different from the first ones. You know, now they have a different movement to them. And I was playing. This one has the primary colors, the red, yellow, and blue, with white, and this one has more of a feeling, I think, of an echo, like it's echoing through different dimensions. And they're very spontaneous when I do these. I mean, they take a while, but they become really a form of meditation for me to make them. And, you know, I hope that that's what the viewer gets out of them as well, to find their still point.
I want to show you something. Look at it. Can you read it?
The music of poetry, yes.
And the four quartet.
Mm-hmm.
T.C. Eliot, the four quartet.
Yes.
And I just got from Amazon because I purchased online. And I was sure, because there is the Savina Stevanato, I thought she was the translator, and I was quite sure to have it in Italian, because T.S. Eliot is not so easy to understand. Mm-hmm. And then when I got the book, I discovered that it is in English. So can you imagine me to read T.C. Eliot, the four quartet in English? I haven't yet started with this, but it would be very, very difficult. And I did it for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, because you wrote the beautiful text that we put in Time book.
Yes.
Last April, May, and you referred to T.C. Eliot four quartet. Yes. in your text, and yes. So I wanted to have it and to read it. But it would be a little bit too difficult I think, for me.
It's a profound work of art, that poem.
Yeah, yes.
It's truly
yes.
profound, you know, and he's talking about time and the absence of time, and past, present, and future are all one moment. And that moment is the still point of the turning world.
Yeah.
And so those thoughts are going through my mind as I'm making these still point pieces, because they really are the past, present, and future all combined into one moment in time. And that moment is the moment of now, of which we are standing, or we are present in front of the work of art. And in that sense, you know, I think that a great work of art, what it does, it reminds the viewer of themselves and who they are in that moment. So
Very nice.
that's my philosophy and my ideology about, you know, what I think really the purpose of art is to make us aware of who we are in each moment in time. So, you know, and each generation has a different way of presenting that, and each artist has a different way of presenting that. But it's the T.S. Eliot point for me is it's such a profound piece, and I've read it over and over and over again. And I'm working on another still point painting right now that is 6.5 feet tall, so 78 inches by 108 inches long. It's 9 feet long. So it's a big still point, and it's, you know, it's bigger than me, which therefore encompasses all of me to make it, and to make these marks. and I have to step back, I have to look at it, I have to move forward to it, and it's really becomes both a physical and an emotional journey that I take with these paintings. Yeah. Any other questions?
I like the physicality of the largeness, because you actually are falling into your paintings. You know, your physical body is becoming part of that overall.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. They take a lot of energy to make those paintings.
Imagine.
Time, a lot of energy and a lot of time, but you know, it's worth it. What else can I say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I'm working on right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 It'd be great if one day, when you can actually bring some of your rolled up canvases with
Yeah.
you, so you're not held up at the border or something.
Yes.
And we'll have to do, part two.
Yes,
with,
I'd love to
some
do
big-
that.
Yeah.
I would very much love to do that. For sure.
I would like to ask Mikelle. Mikelle, you told us about the procession of candles, la processione in Italian, la fiaccolata. Have they had it or not? On the 24th?
This year they did an alternative thing. I mean, normally it goes on every year. It's been going on for decades.
No, but I mean this year. Yeah.
This year, what they did was instead they put a whole bunch of candles out on the big space where they normally have the falot, the big bonfire.
Yes.
And there were, I don't know, maybe 50 volunteers. They all put candles out to make this big star shape. So they filmed it live, and then they projected it onto a YouTube channel and Facebook, and then had interviews with me and other people during the procession of the burning of the candles. So there was not a physical movement from one space to the next, but they did do a light event, a candle event, but it was videotaped. And
can you send me the link? So I want to look at it, because it's could be very interesting if you can share with us the link, and we link on it and we Google on it. And one more thing, have you had the people coming to the exhibition, and what is the feedback and the reaction to his paintings and to this kind of form of art?
Yeah, well, of course, I haven't had a lot because, you know, we're
Yeah.
in total lockdown. But a few people like Il Conte, the Count and his wife, and the journalist that lives up the street, and some other significant viewers, I would say, have come. And in part, it's his work, in part, it's the building, and in part, it's the combination of those two, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that this is the first time the building's really been open to the public in over 20 years or 30 years, and some of these people that are coming, for example, the Count, relations were connected to this building. These people remember coming here as kids and learning theater and Latino, Francese, piano, canto. So they're coming and they're like reliving their childhood. They're reliving being back in this building that's now once open again. And at the same time, they're experiencing contemporary art in this space. So it's quite the trip for them, right? And so everybody just loves it. I mean, everyone was just like, oh, how beautiful! Finally, all the building and the experience. And people just love walking in and just having work on the walls, that it being a live space again. And they walk through and they remember singing at the piano in the corner with the nun, and you know, it's all very it's still very theatrical. It's always been theatrical, and it still is. And there are these different layers of history going on and generations going on. And I really love, and I think that people do too. I was surprised how much they love contemporary art here. So I thought, I wasn't really sure if they would get the contemporary art part, but they really seem to like the combination of the two. And I don't know, for example, the artist I had before Shane, I hung the work sideways because the doors, these hinges from the 1700s, they make the doors hang at an angle. So I hung the artwork at an angle, and the Count said, oh, I'm gonna go home and hang my work at an angle. And the journalist, he came in and he said, oh, it's contemporary art, fantastic. And so I think, you know, we'll never have big crowds here, and that's not the point of this location, because it also has a retreat feeling about it. But I think the people that do come, and if we selectively invite the right audience, I think it's a fantastic combination.
I think there is one more aspect of the entire installation, that Shane's art is not so excessive in terms of contemporary art. Is not pushed forward in a certain sense. I want to explain better. His art is a little bit soft and much more classical, if we can talk about classical art in contemporary art. So is not excessive, and the link between the space and his paintings is a sort of a dialogue and conversation, and is not a punch in your stomach, a punch in the stomach, because I know that in Piedmont they are very used to contemporary art in a massive way because of Castello di Rivoli and Sandretto Rebaudengo collection, all these kind of things. So if you think that Catalan was born through Sandretto Rebaudengo collection, and so Catalan is always a punch in the stomach, even though I don't find he is excessive sometimes, but not ever. In this situation, Shane's works are softer in a certain way, and so they match and they create a real conversation. I was looking at the ceiling and also the size of the paintings. There is a balance between the ceiling, for which the installation is not killing the ceiling, is not killing. It is hard, the space is hard to be killed because it's very, very impressive. But at the same time, Shane's works don't disappear in this richness of the space, whereas there is a perfect balance between the size, the colors, the subject which relates to the environment in a certain way, for flowers or leaves or whatever we want to call them, and so I find it is very well balanced. What do you think, Shane?
I
Or
agree with you.
Mikelle?
Yeah. I totally agree. And,
Victoria, you
and
know
what you're
the
talking
space,
about is
for instance.
exactly, that was what you're discussing, what you're talking about is exactly what I was hoping to achieve. Is
Yeah.
that, and for there to be a real conversation between the architecture and my thoughts, and to create it's almost like you're sitting at the piano, you're going to hit the middle key of C, and then you're going to hit a complementary note that creates a harmony. So that's what I wanted to have happen.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, it's happening physically in the space. It's also happening conceptually or intellectually, just because of the timing that's very specific. The fact that, you know, the 24th of December, with these rituals that are part laic, part pagan, part Christian, sort of all intermixed, and also the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter that hasn't happened since 1200. And, you know, Shane explaining very precisely that this passage of from the Gregorian calendar, it's days, but it's also the passage from light to dark, from dark to light, from light to dark, you know, so this path of light, you know, literally and conceptually, it just all ties in together really well. So
Victoria, what do you think about it? Because you know the space, you are very lucky because you know physically the space, and you know you know Shane's works. What do you think?
I think it's really beautiful. I think that it's what I imagined for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was really I was surprised to see Mikelle's Instagram post yesterday, because she made this, you know, very casual post saying that the last exhibition was about art that sort of deteriorated in the space, for lack of a better word. I apologize, Mikelle. And Shane's work is actually in harmony with the space, with the architecture, with the previous inherent art, the frescoes, and the environment, and it's existing. It's part of the life, the Italian life. Mikelle, do you want to fill in what you wrote a little bit?
I mean, I chose there was one artist before Shane that sort of inaugurated the use of the space as an exhibition space, which was Tommaso Panzeri and Genovese. And I chose his work because it has an aspect about it of not quite looking like artwork. You can't really tell that it's artwork unless you call it that. But because the space is transitioning from disuse to use, and his work is kind of like non-art art, and I wanted it to integrate with the building. So the crusty walls, the flaking paint, the cracks, the deterioration, and his work was not to be presented as a standalone artwork. It was to be presented as something that integrated into the structure and walls of the building, along with its decay, along with the transformation that the humidity is going to inflict upon it. The work's going to fall. He allowed me to put it on the stairs so that people could actually walk on it and leave their mark, leave trace of their presence over time. And so that work was meant to just hang and transform and warp and fall. So that work was how to introduce some artwork into the building and not have it distinct from the building, but be a part of the building. So Shane's, even though it certainly is also part of the building, I chose it more to, instead of it being integrated specifically and only with the building, to be integrated with the local traditions and community surrounding this building. So one was kind of in and one was kind of out, even though Shane's work obviously also relates to the building, but not in the way that we're going to let it, decay and fall apart here, the way Tommaso is happy to do. So a little bit different.
But Shane and Mikelle, Cynthia's conversation, the three of your conversation earlier, how perhaps the fresco relates to Venice or French, or these things were a bit intuitive for Shane. Shane's like knows so much about art history and ancient civilizations. I mean, it just goes on. He's the most knowledgeable person I've ever met. Cynthia, I don't know you that well yet, but
No, that's fine.
But I'm kind of like not surprised it integrates as well as it does.
This too is what it is. Yeah, no, there's been an incredible intuition going on the part of both artists. Tommaso, who had not really seen the colors of the wall, or he had never been here, he ended up making these, they're like scratchy, abstract things. But they ended up taking on exact patterns of the wall, the same colors of the chipped paint. So he ended up also doing an intuitive interpretation of the space. And I would say Shane also intuitively was able to interact and respond to the colors and to the sensation and to this both of them have been adapting in an intuitive way to the space, and each in their own way, but it's been perfect. Yeah, it's been really ideal for the space. I can't be happier than how these two shows have come out.
That's great. I can see this 10 years from now being an amazing coffee table book.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I keep taking pictures and a little bit of filming today, even though I can't really tell if it's in focus or not, but we'll eventually get some really good footage for you. And
Oh, great.
hopefully it'll be the beginning of the beginning.
Absolutely. No, I'm, Victoria and I are both so disappointed that we couldn't come because of this world situation. And, and I was really also looking forward to then going down to Naples and hanging out with Cynthia and Renato and
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we'll do it.
It's gonna happen. I mean, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We'll
It's
just,
gonna happen. It'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah,
I,
definitely.
I would like to add something about the colors, Shane, because I found something some slightly different. First of all, I saw for the first time a lot of light pink in your colors. Pink is something that you use normally, but in general, it is a little bit more violent towards the orange or red, and also a darker red. In these paintings, I found a very light pink, which is very smooth, very elegant, and yeah. And in my opinion, is new about, yes, exactly that one. Um, Newer in your palette.
Mhm.
Secondly, I found a different palette than in LA. Maybe you were really inspired by Italian mannerism and Italian colors of the Venetian area, because I found the red, yes, red is quite red, but in light blue and yellow and pink above all, I found something different than your usual palette of colors. I don't, uh, is it something that came out thinking of this space, thinking of Italy, thinking of this kind of decoration, or was something that came out from you in this moment of your life?
I think it's all the above. What you're talking about. I think it's um,
Yeah.
you know, the travels that I've had, absorbing different cultures, absorbing the
Mm.
architecture of places like Naples and Venice, um, St. Petersburg, different all over the world. As these things, they kind of they sink into my mind. And when I start drawing or making marks, it's almost as if each mark that I make, there's, if you can imagine an onion, and each mark is, I get to peel away a layer of onion. And so as I go more and more marks, I go deeper into my memory. And these things become revealed to me. And colors that I've seen, I think I was also very inspired by the
Yeah.
colors around my ranch here, of the
Yeah. Mm.
of the flowers. I planted a whole bed of flowers, these uh, wildflowers that were just, there was purples and pinks and yellows, and there was marigolds. And so I had a big area of flowers that I planted, and they were just so beautiful. And so all these things combined, you know,
Because I find that they are very different from the steel point. If you look at the steel points, they are quite different. They are more, in a certain way, more aggressive, and it is absolutely right. Look at this, for instance. They are much more California colors, and look at this, for instance. They, even though there are some areas which are faded, like the one in the flowers, but the flowers in general are a little bit very smooth and less aggressive.
yeah,
Even
they're very
though
soft.
obviously I am talking about steel point, and steel point has another meaning, another way of painting, and requires something different
Mhm.
than the yes. Look at this, than the flowers.
Yeah.
But in comparison to the uh, excluding the idea of the meanings of the flowers and the still points. So taking out and excluding the idea, look at how they fade in the colors, and how the colors are smooth and suitable for flowers, and a little bit different from your usual colors. Is it true? Is it true? Is not completely wrong what I say?
No, you're right. You're right. And you know, I mean, there's a softness to these, and I think that softness is really about the fragility of life. You know, life is, and I think, you know, as also reading the headlines every day, and you know, yet another 100,000 people have died.
Yeah.
You realize just how precious life is and how fragile life is. And we think life is going in one direction, and all of a sudden it shifts and it goes into a different direction. But the other direction is being influenced by what had just happened, you know, and that's true with the still points, as each mark is influenced by the mark that just came before it and the one that came before that. And so it ends up creating an image, a pattern of moments.
Mm.
If that makes sense. And so I think with the number pieces, the moment is more distilled. It's more, I'm not going to fragment it like a still point painting. I'm going to make it into almost a physical object.
Mm.
And then that object can reflect light. It can capture, you know, these things, I'm drawing them, you know, with soft pastels as if, you know, they cast shadows.
Yeah.
The surface reflects light. There's areas that cast shadows. Some of them are semi-translucent, so you can see through and see what's underneath it.
Also, I enjoy the mix between the soft pastel and then the more objective, concrete number. It's sort of as if you have this very subjective, ever shifting, subtle experience, and then but you're also always followed by this very objective calendar that doesn't let anybody escape
Right.
from their mortality or
Yeah, it's jarring. You know, if you think about those numbers as almost like a clock, a time, a calendar, then it becomes sort of jarring, and it's like, oh, this is this moment in time, and this moment is only this moment, and that's all we have, is each moment. So I'm really wanting what's that?
The graphic quality of the numbers. Can you say anything about, well, I guess it sounds sort of reductive to say the font, but can you say anything about the style of the actual numbers themselves?
Sure. You know, I've thought about doing them freehand, but then they just become part of the drawing, part of the piece. And this allows me to separate them. And by, you know, I just buy these little stencils and I stencil them on, then I go back in and draw into them. And I'm kind of also nodding a little bit to Jasper Johns and the stenciling that he would do, you know, in some of his earlier works. And it's almost like it creates a sensation of something being stamped, like there's a mechanical process happening here, which is in direct contrast to the image that it's floating over. So
yeah, it's like a government official saying, okay, next, you know, next.
This is this day, this is this number. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, again, it just adds another, it's almost like the numbers become like a window, a layer that you have to, you know, like on your computer screen right now, there's 2 different, 4 different, 5 different images happening. simultaneously, but it's all one. So,
Mhm.
you know, and that's how our lives are right now. We have multiple layers happening in our reality. And we have, you know, we have our phone, we have our computer, we have what we see with our eyes, we have what we see through a mechanical process. It all merges into this one moment.
Can I say something?
Yeah,
There?
right now, right. Oh, well, let me put in one thing, Victoria, 1 second. Also now we live by numbers every day for COVID deaths. So
Yes.
it's almost as if, you know, you wake up in the morning, you say, how many? Oh, yesterday, 1,200. Oh, today, 942. Oh, you know, so without
Yeah.
even like referencing what anymore, we just live by how many infected, how many dead, how many infected, how many dead, you know? So we've become like really number attached this last year as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Victoria, go ahead.
No problem. And I think now in Los Angeles, it's how many ICU beds are available.
Yeah, none.
Yeah.
Zero.
Now there's 0, so we can't go out because we can't afford to have anybody else sick. But one thing I wanted to touch on that we didn't talk about, that was part of the process of Shane creating the work, was that it was to be seen in candlelight. And so just observing Shane working and making his decisions about the composition and the colors, I shared with him the colors of the walls. Of course, he looked at the frescoes, but he also had to consider color, but also seeing the work in candlelight and what would be the contrast that people would get in the candlelight walking through with their large candlesticks, which didn't get to happen this year, perhaps next year. But Mikelle so gracefully put these candles down there, and we kind of get a glimpse of what that was to look like.
The people that visited the show, they visited the room with that lighting and they said it was magic. Yeah, they really, really liked it. The experience, yeah.
And
I mean, look at the ceiling in this photograph right there that you're putting up, and those sharp the vaults that come together, those points. Well, those points are being echoed into points of the drawings.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been leaf shapes. Yeah, yeah. I've noticed that before.
I would like to ask you all something, because I have the opportunity to send a sort of text with photographs to be published in the in a magazine, in art online magazine, published in Milan. And I would like also to give a sort of invitation to people in Milan and in the north of Italy to come to see the exhibition. I know that the owner of the owner of the web and the magazine, the online magazine, is a curator, a young curator in Milan, and is a very good friend of mine. And the only thing that he asks for is the authorization and liberation to publish the images. So whoever is the owner of the images, because he is always afraid about the copyright problems, so it just requires a specific letter or email to be free from copyright. So whoever is the owner of the images, I think that Shane is the owner of the images of the paintings, and Mikelle also the environment, the entire environment. You can obviously, I asked Mikelle to send me as many as possible photographs of the installation and the specific artworks. And at the same time, Shane and Mikelle, yes, like this, for instance, Shane and Mikelle, the authorization to be published. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I will try to do my best to have it published this month or next month.
Okay.
How long it will stay up, the exhibition, Mikhail?
Well, officially speaking, until January 7th. I don't have any problem leaving it up longer. I don't know if the humidity might eventually be a problem for Shane's work or if it needs to go somewhere else. So I guess it also kind of depends on Shane, but it can, from my standpoint, it can definitely stay up longer.
I'd love for it to stay up longer, and then we can just play it by ear as things unfold in the world.
Yes,
Okay.
I think that at the moment there is everything is quite blocked, and for instance also the exhibition that I started in October, at the end of October in Naples, I will keep it stay longer than January, because I have no exhibition in program, also because I should have come to Los Angeles. I hope to to come at the end of January, so obviously I keep it longer. Also because we really need to have a public to come, and with all these problems, the red zone, the orange zone, the yellow zone, we don't understand anything if people can move or not, can go out, travel to another region or to another city hall, comune. You know, Mikhail, you know the situation.
Yeah,
So
very well. I think after January 7th, I think they're gonna move us from the red zone to the orange or yellow or something. So
Yeah.
I think after the holidays are over, they're gonna allow us to move from one region to the next. So
yeah,
That's good.
that's good.
It has to happen here in California.
Uh, how is the situation in California?
It's bad. It's the worst in the world. LA
Yes,
County right now is ground zero for the world. Yeah, it's
yeah.
bad.
you
But
know
you know
that.
what I'll do, Cynthia, is I'll write up I'll write something up stating that I grant I give the permission for the reproduction usage of the images
Yeah.
of the artwork.
Yes.
Okay. And I'll
Yes.
send.
Yeah, and I will
Yeah.
of course provide the images and also a statement, a liberatoria.
Yes, and Mikhail, also, if you have some more images or a film or a video or something, I would be very happy. Whatever I can do for you all is my pleasure, you know.
Oh, that's so sweet, Cynthia. That's
Yes,
adorable.
but
And
yes, Mikhail, you know, I am in love with art, and the most important thing for me is to offer the possibility to the public to see art and to enjoy the art, and to share with them, to share art with them. So as much as I can do, even in this moment, which is a very uh, very boring moment and very tough, because nobody can move, and
Yeah.
very tough.
well, we're
Um,
doing our part.
Indeed.
We're moving art as much as possible in this environment. So
Look, I want to say that, you know, some of the other groups that I'm involved with, the artists, their behavior and their mentality is, well, I'll just stop. I'll just wait. I'll just wait for the world, you know, and I was so grateful that Shane and I and Cynthia and Mikelle, that we're not waiting. we're
Yeah.
doing and producing and sharing. And I think it's really important, and it's so grateful for all of you to take on this project and to continue, and not be passive. Just continue to
No,
feel.
Victoria, to me is a way to survive, because otherwise I take my brain and I throw it in the garbage, and I can't do it. is a way to survive, because it's very tough for me not to be allowed to travel in this moment, or to have to find a lot of difficulties in traveling, because if I land in California, I have to stay for 10 or 14 days in quarantine,
Right.
and obviously is very boring in an apartment in Los Angeles is not so nice. So and there is nothing we can do, or I don't know what will be in the future with the vaccine, if we will be required to be vaccinated to travel before traveling, or and you will the obligation to take a vaccine to travel is something very, very bad, because it's a sort, I find it as a sort of medical dictatorship, and is something I am not comfortable with it. Any imposing of something towards my health and my body, because otherwise I don't have the access to the flight, and all these kind of things that will happen in the future. Because I expect that it will happen. And in my position, I cannot allow myself to stay closed in Italy and not to come to United States, because we have a lot of interests also in United States, a lot of art, and a home in Los Angeles. So we have also our economic interests over there. So I cannot stay forever in Italy, closed in my house and talking through internet with you. It's not something.
And thank
Mikelle, you are frozen. You are
Yeah.
freezing.
I have to go because I've reached my cold limit.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Shane,
So-
for believing in
Get that
Thank you.
recording to you, and I'll get that done tonight, and then I'll get you the paperwork to the release form tonight as well. Or your
Send me-
Fantastic. It was wonderful.
Yes.
It was super, super wonderful talking to all of you guys. It was
Bye-bye.
fantastic. So
Mikelle,
Happy
send
New
me
Year.
also statements or something written, whatever you have, please send it to me so that I put up something. And because I am writing for two online art magazines.
Oh, wow.
So one of the two,
Great.
I want to have it published. Okay. And send me the video and the
Fantastic.
link, everything.
That sounds great.
Okay. Will do.
Everybody,
Will do. Thank you.
thank you, and Happy
so
New
much.
Year. A
Happy New
better
Year.
year.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Stay well, stay safe. Bye.
Bye-bye.